The gospel reading today is on your insert if you want to follow along, and we'll be looking at this a couple different times during the message today. It's Matthew 5, verses 3 through 12. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Do we have any note takers in the group? One note taker, okay. Do we have any people that could be talked into note taking, perhaps? So I'm starting a new sermon series. It's called Don't Worry, Be Happy. And for each of the sermons, you will get a little insert like this. And it's an opportunity to take some notes. There's some blank places here that you will, as you listen to the sermon, be able to fill in. Then you can put this on your refrigerator or wherever you do your prayer time. It will give you something to look at and even might prompt some questions that you want to talk to me about later, which I would be happy to do. When I counsel people who are looking to get married, one of the questions I ask them is, what are they hoping to get out of this marriage? What are they hoping to get out of life? What are their plans for the future? What does it look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now in their minds? These are open questions that kind of tell me a little bit about their thinking about life in general and about what marriage really amounts to. And I have to tell you, at least half the time, if not more, the answer I get, I just want to be happy. Well, good luck with that, because that's a possibly unattainable goal if you don't have other kinds of goals in your life that will actually lead to happiness. And so I ask you, what would it take to make you happy? And I'd like you to think about that for a minute. What would it take to make you happy? Now, 52,000 Americans were asked that in a poll, and these are the answers that they gave. What would it take to make them happy? Friends or social life, a job, being in love, recognition and success, personal growth, good financial situation, having a house or having an apartment, being attractive and beautiful. They'd be happy if they lived in a specific city somewhere, clearly not where they live now. They'd be happy if they could find the right church or the right religion. They'd be happy if they could do more recreation or more exercise. They'd be happy if they could just have a child. They'd be happy if they were married. You see a common theme here at all? The common theme is when something happens, something external happens, then I'll be happy. Now, don't we all do that? Actually, we all do that. I'm pretty sure about that. We all define our happiness on external situations. For its pastors, if we can just get through Lent, then everything will be fine. Once Christmas is over, then things are going to settle down and I'll be happy again. And for you, it might be, I just want to be grown up. I want to be out of school. I want to be retired. You name it, When that first grandchild's born, then I'll find some happiness. For some reason, we have in our heads and in our hearts that happiness comes through external situations. And I'm in your notes now. So the popular idea of happiness, having the right circumstances. Ecclesiastes 2, 1 through 26, you can read that on your own. That's the thing I just spoke about. When you're out of school, when you get that job, when you get married, when you get kids, or when the kids finally leave, then I'll be happy for sure. Solomon said this. Now, you got to remember, Solomon was king, right? Solomon had everything you could imagine in the world. And he thought about just exactly what it was that was going to make him happy. Solomon said, I decided to enjoy myself and find out what happiness is. Now you can read Ecclesiastes 2 on your own, and you'll learn a lot of the things that Solomon did in order to try to find happiness. Wealthy? Yep. All kinds of money. He really had everything. He tried everything. He did everything. And in all of that, he discovered 3 dead ends to happiness. The dead ends are accumulating things. Sometimes we think things will make us happy. We call it retail therapy. Have you heard? Yeah, retail, although now it's Amazon therapy, right? Yeah, Amazon therapy. The second one is experiencing pleasures. You'll find that in verses 3 through 10. And the third one is achieving success. Achieving success. So, things around us that are going to make us happy, pleasures, personal pleasures, you name it, traveling, what have you, that's going to make us happy. Or power and success. Oh yeah, when I'm in charge, I'm going to be happy. After all of that, Solomon comes to this conclusion. And it's in verse 17, he says, all of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Now, when you've experienced enough life, and most of you have, you kind of start to figure that out, don't you? Happiness isn't about things or pleasures or success. Number 2, God's way to happiness. God's way to happiness is in Matthew 5, verses 3 through 12. That's the Beatitudes that I read to you. And you can keep them right before you there because we're going to go through them again. Having the right attitude. God's way to happiness is having the right attitude. We can be happy in any circumstances. Now here's the thing about happy. Blessed means happy. Did you know that? It's an old English word, and it essentially means happy. The words are interchangeable. Happy and blessed. They're interchangeable. And so if you look at that, those Beatitudes there, you can just substitute the word happy for blessed. So when I tell you you're a blessing to me, what am I telling you? You make me happy. Yeah. It's as easy as that. So happy are the poor in spirit. Happy are those who mourn. Happy are the meek. Happy are those who hunger and thirst. Happy are the merciful. Happy are the pure in heart. Happy are the peacemakers. Happy are those who are persecuted. Now, does that make sense? I mean, especially that last one. Happy are the persecuted? Really? That doesn't sound like a very happy situation to me. In other words, when you substitute happy in there for blessed, you start to come up with this list of contradictions, don't you? That doesn't seem to make sense. We're happy when we're sad? Is that what that means? We're happy when we're poor? Really? We're happy when we're persecuted? Wow. What could God possibly be saying by these contradictions? My happiness is not determined by what's happening around me, or I'll add to me. Okay? No, that isn't what causes happiness in me. It's not by what's happening around me. It's not by what's happening to me. But rather, it's what's happening where? In me. What's happening in me. It may not make sense, but it is God's plan for us, that we can be happy in any situation. Wow. That's hard to imagine when we've experienced terrible loss, for instance. How am I supposed to be happy in the middle of that? And that is God's plan, that when we know Him, when He dwells in us, we can have happiness. We can be blessed in the most horrific circumstances. So the first step to happiness, it's a pretty simple step. It's be humble. That's it. Be humble. It's the first step to happiness. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. What's it mean to be poor in spirit? It means to be humble. It means to be dependent on God. It's the exact opposite of arrogance or egotism. All right? And here's how humility increases my happiness. Number one, it reduces stress. Number two, it improves relationships. And number three, it releases God's power. Reduces stress, improves relationships, and releases God's power. It reduces stress. James 4:6, God gives strength to the humble, but sets himself against the proud. Got any canoers in the kayakers? Any water people? One here. All right. Oh, some more. Yeah, I like doing that too. Pretty fun. Especially in the spring right now, and in some of our rivers and streams, you'll find a really strong current, won't you? And if you turn that canoe or that kayak around and you try to paddle upstream, that's pretty hard. Pretty hard. I mean, you'd be working really hard to get anywhere when you're paddling upstream. Here's the thing about humility. It turns your canoe around and it points you downstream. And suddenly you're going with the flow. You don't have to work nearly as hard at life when you have humility. You see, humility is this thing that says, okay, I get it, God, I'm not perfect. We all there yet? Yeah, we figured it out a long time ago, didn't we? I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers. Oh, sometimes, rare, yeah, right. Sometimes other people have good ideas too. Yep, it happens. When, for about 10 years, I had my own business. It was a small manufacturing company. This might not be something you knew yet about me, but we manufactured X-ray machines. We made them for security purposes like airport scanning, and we made them for veterinarians to take X-rays of horses and other animals. And for a variety of other purposes, but we made these X-ray machines. And one of the hardest things that I had to learn was that I wasn't the only one with a good idea. You see, when you're in charge and you know what needs to be done, you just kind of ram straight ahead and tried to get it done. And I was surrounded by all these people that I was paying pretty well, and ignoring them. Turns out that was bad for business. Because here's all these wonderful ideas that were, in some cases, I can't hardly even say it out loud, but better than mine. Yeah. I started figuring out that when I took this idea and that idea and this idea and put them all together, we came up with something way better than my idea that I had that was, of course, perfect. Perfect idea. Yeah. And that changed the direction of the company. We actually started doing wonderful things because everybody had input, and it made a difference, a positive difference. I had to learn I didn't have all the answers. It requires a certain amount of what? Humility. Thank you. Yes, humility. That's what we're supposed to be. Some of us kind of tend to beat ourselves up. We are hardest on ourselves, and I know it's true because I do it, right? That's where stress comes in humility. We beat ourselves up. When we figure out that we're not perfect, that we can't be expected to be perfect because we're human, we can stop doing that. A couple Sundays ago, you may notice I didn't publish my sermon right away. Yeah. It wasn't a good Sunday. I forgot to serve the musicians' communion, and I felt terrible about it. The sermon didn't feel good. It was the sermon where I played the music for Don Quixote. Yeah. It didn't feel good. I didn't think it went well. The whole morning just felt off. And when Sunday was over, or when the service was over, I thought, I should have just stayed in retirement. Yeah. I can't do this anymore. I can't do it well, that's clear, Too many mistakes. I went to visit later in the week. I went to visit Natalie and Arlene, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, and Natalie says, why didn't you publish your sermon? And I said, I didn't want anybody to see it, It's pretty awful. And after that conversation, I went back home and I published the sermon. And Sometimes we can be our own worst critics, right? Yeah. We can beat ourselves up pretty bad. That causes a lot of stress. Humility, the recognition that we're not perfect, takes away that stress. Number 2, humility improves relationships. Happy are those who know their need for God, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Matthew 5:3. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being around people who have big heads? Do you like being around people that are always right, filled with pride, self-centered? You like that? Is that fun? No. You know what? Nobody likes being around you when you're like that either. Yep. It's just kind of the way it is. If you want to improve relationships, humility is a good start. It's a good start. You can improve relationships just like I did with my employees by recognizing, oh my goodness, they've got some good ideas too. And I needed to listen to them. Number 3, humility releases God's power. John 13:17. Now that you know the truth, how happy you will be if you put it into practice. You know, there was a time before I married Rhonda that I was alone. Several years that I lived alone. And people were worried about me. You know, do you have a place to go for Thanksgiving? What are you doing for Christmas? What have you eaten this week? You know, you want to come over for dinner? They were just looking out for me, you know, trying to take care of me. Do you know how humbling that is? It's amazing. If you want to release God's power, humility is the way to do it. I am so grateful for God's goodness. I was standing out there in the back of the sanctuary after doing a service right here a few months ago, and I was asked if I would consider being the pastor of this church. That really surprised me. I didn't even think I was looking for a church. It was humbling, really was. I wasn't sure I was good enough to do the church. I'm still not, by the way. Being asked meant everything to me. Yeah. Just being asked. It was humbling. It was meaningful. And in fact, being here with you each Sunday has given my life meaning again. I feel useful most Sundays. Getting to be your pastor, it's a blessing. Oh, what does it mean to be a blessing? It makes me happy. Yeah, makes me happy. So thank you for that gift. I really appreciate the opportunity to make mistakes on Sunday morning. Yeah. I'm humbled by God's goodness through you. I'm thankful for all of you. Humility releases God's power. And you've done that for me in this congregation, in this sanctuary, in that room over there in the fellowship hall where we get to share coffee together afterwards. Every visit that I've had with each of you, and I've visited many of you now, what a blessing to learn about your lives a little bit and to share in whatever is on your mind and learn about your perspective for the church. All of that has been amazing and wonderful. The first step to happiness is humility. God bless.